Calm's Crystal Conflict Tips, the power of Mouseover macros. I've recently covered focus macros in another video on this channel, so it's only fitting to follow up with an equally powerful type of macro, the Mouseover macro. Where focus macros allow you to cast spells on one specific person, sometimes you need the flexibility to cast on different people in different situations with only one button. Sage's Kardion buff, Dark Knight's the Blackest Night shield, Dancer's dance partner, White Mage Aquaveil, Ninja Mace Sweep, Paladin's cover, Bard's Warden's Payon, Samurai limit break, Machinist limit break. That's just a part of the long list of abilities that could benefit from the flexibility and speed that a Mouseover macro provides. This video will explain what a Mouseover macro is, why you should use them, and how to write one. With that, let's get started. Very quickly, the one downside to using a macro that you need to be aware of is that you can't buffer them. If the global cooldown hasn't completed entirely before you press the macro you're trying to cast, it won't cast. This is easily countered by just pressing the buttons multiple times, and those of you who mash your buttons like I do basically won't feel any difference at all. Moving on. A Mouseover macro lets me cast an ability on a target without needing to click on them. All I need to do is hover my mouse cursor over my intended target, then press the ability, and that ability will target that person. So where a regular ability requires clicking, which as I've explained in a previous guide, really sucks in this video game, a Mouseover macro removes that requirement entirely. And it matters a ton. Let's look at this very common situation here. I'm playing Sage and I've got Kardion on myself at the moment. I'm targeting an enemy player and I want to swap Kardion to a different friendly target to get them some heals. Without a Mouseover macro, I have to click my new intended Kardion target, cast the ability, then figure out how I'm going to retarget my previous target. All I wanted to do was move my Kardion buff to a different target, but I have to do all this extra work. With the Mouseover macro, all I have to do is scroll my cursor over either the character or the party frame of the person I want to buff, press the button, and that's it. So now I swap my Kardion faster and I still keep the target I had previously. Mouseovers also provide speed that could easily mean life or death. Here, I've been chainsawed for 95% of my health right before the tornadoes come out. My guard is forced and I'm in a lot of trouble. I have to use most of my mana to keep myself above the 30,000 fall damage I'm going to take, and I need a way to survive after that. If you've been around this channel for more than 5 minutes, you know I love my focus teleport abilities, but my focus target isn't anywhere helpful to me. But my summoner here is. The longer it takes me to cast my teleport on them, the more likely I am to be killed by this Dark Knight chasing me down. A couple of failed click attempts could very easily get me killed. But since I've got a Mouseover teleport, I scroll over the summoner, teleport to them, and survive by getting to the available potion. If you're looking for a play that separates Crystal from Diamond, here you go. Seriously, on my Black Mage I have 4 teleport keybinds, one for my current target, one for myself to proc the instant cast buff, one for my focus target, and one for my Mouseover target, and I use all 4 of them to keep myself alive. If you watch my stream at twitch.tv/comlamity, you'll see the sort of certain death scenarios I'm able to pull myself out of because of these macros. It happens way more often than you might think. Now that I've appropriately hyped up Mouseover macros, let's write one. We'll cover 2 in this video, both of which you can find in the description below. The first one is your basic Mouseover macro, and the second one has quite a bit more pizzazz. Let's start with the same ability we learned focus macros with, Black Mage's Eetherial Manipulation. First, access your macro interface by going to Settings, Macros. Click on an open slot in the left side, and name your macro here, and we'll write the actual macro in this large box. This first line sets the icon image of the macro, and the second line here turns off all the errors that would pop up in your text box. In this third line, we cast the PvP action, Aetherial Manipulation, and inside these angle brackets, we say what we want the ability to target. All we need to do to change this to a Mouseover macro is replace the F with the letters MO for Mouseover, and that's it. Now, without a target, you can scroll over a target and teleport to it. All you need to do to adapt this for your job, if it has some kind of gap-closing ability, is replace Aetherial Manipulation with the name of your ability. Icarus for Sage, Thunderclap for Monk, or even Guardian with Paladin are great examples of this. And for the second macro, we'll look over this absolute chonker I use on my Sage to move Kardion around. I play with the option to autoface a target when I use an ability on it, but Kardion doesn't require a facing. And if I don't have a Mouseover target, I still want the macro to cast the ability like it normally would as a fallback. So here's the macro. First line locks the macro, preventing anything else from happening until the macro ends, which isn't really restrictive as the macro ends almost as quickly as it starts. The next 2 lines are the same as the first 2 from before, keeping the errors from blowing up your chat box and setting the macro icon to the Kardia ability. Then we cancel the auto face target option by using this line here. Now we can use our Mouseover macro without facing the target exactly like we want, so we write /pvpaction Kardia and put MO in angle brackets. Next, we want the fallback option of casting it like it normally would, so we do the exact same line except we leave out the angle brackets entirely. The primary purpose of this is that if I have an enemy or nobody targeted, it will cast Kardia at myself. And finally, we turned off the auto face before, so we have to turn that back on, and we do that with this last line here. And that's it. It's a lot of lines, but holy gods, is it life-changing for a job with an ability that you can cast on a teammate. If you find a Mouseover macro that works for you, let me know. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, ask me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/comlamity, or join the PvP Revival Discord and ask the team of mentors there. You can find all the links in the description below. If you have a guide you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to help me grow, which allows me to make more guides for you. Until next time, happy hunting!